स्वभावचिन्मयानन्दं कृपापूर्णं जगत्पतिं हरिषड्वर्ग
सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तं वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. I welcome you all with my love and respects. Nice to be here once more. Thank the temple and the temple authorities for hosting the program once more. Before entering into today's subject, wanted to say a few words to introduce the subject, because I am seeing many new faces. The subject is the essence of 10,000 years of research and development went on in the inner science in Himalayas. In India, there is a big group of people who are satisfied with all the outer needs like food, shelter, clothes, all other needs, who had a lot of time and energy and intelligence to look into the powers of mind and look into the different conscious levels. Somehow they were able to tap into the source, the eternal bliss. Not only they were able to experience, they were able to create technique, methods to reproduce that same experience on others. So this book is the essence of their research and development. For thousands of years they did a research and development to achieve that state, not only achieving, how to reproduce it on other human beings. This book is that essence of that knowledge. It is called Shiva Sutras, teachings of Mahadeva, Shiva. This book can give you an idea how that whole culture, that whole country, the whole tradition was dedicated to one purpose: inner science, enlightenment. They are not bothered about anything else. They are not even bothered about teaching or preaching. Understand? Still now in India there is a big group believes people who experienced will not speak. Still now there is a big group which believes people who experienced will not speak, and if you are teaching, you are only considered as a second level master. Still, from the tradition, with the Vedic tradition, the person who teaches is considered only as a second level master. He is not considered as a first level. You see, understand, means they are not even bothered about teaching. Forget about converting or preaching. That simply does not exist in their blood. Still, the world's third largest religion does not have system of conversion. Vedic tradition does not have a ritual to convert anybody. Many of our devotees ask me, Swamiji, should I convert to Hinduism? I want to convert to Hinduism. I said, no need, because we don't have that idea. We don't have that idea. The Vedic tradition is just a way of life. It is an inner science. If it appeals for you, if you are happy with it, if you are practicing it, over, that's all. We don't have the conversion idea, because our masters never bothered about anything else except doing research and development, constantly doing research and development and creating methods and techniques to reproduce that experience. They bothered only about creating the product, never marketed it. They created only the product, never marketed it. That is the power of the tradition. You see, without marketing, if something can spread all over the world and more than billion people are following it, the followers are more than billion, one among the 6 belongs to the Vedic tradition. But whatever I am saying is directly people who belong to Vedic tradition. There are so many religions came out of Vedic tradition. Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, there are so many other traditions. I am not calculating all those things. Directly people who belong to this tradition itself, more than a billion, 1 billion. 1 billion we are able to follow this tradition without any teaching or preaching, then understand the power of the truth. Just by the very power of the truth, the tradition is standing. And the country, and this is the only religion which does not have even a single country on the planet Earth. Understand? Hinduism does not have a single country on the planet Earth. No country's religion is Hinduism. We had a small country, Nepal, few years ago. Now that also is declared as secular. And no country is supporting. But this tradition is thriving, alive. Anywhere, if people have started thinking about the inner science or the spirituality, they turn towards this tradition. They turn towards this tradition. Wanted to give a little introduction about this tradition before entering into the subject, because only if you know the background, you will be able to appreciate and understand this today's sutra. Because today's sutra is a very powerful technique, but very funny technique. It will look very funny if you don't understand, but very powerful method to enlightenment if you understand. Let me read today's sutra, the Shiva's teaching. This is the 47th sutra. He has given 112 meditation techniques, 112 sutras. Sutra means aphorism, technique. Each sutra gives one technique. 112 aphorisms he has given. Today is 47th aphorism. The translation says, enter the sound of your name and or your gotra name. Gotra means the family name. And through this sound, all the sounds and go beyond the sound. The meaning is, he is asking you to use your name or the family Gotra's name as a mantra, as a sound, constantly by repeating it, using it. You can enter into the soundlessness, means enlightenment. It will be very funny. If somebody tells you, repeat your own name continuously, you will become enlightened. It will be funny. If you understand the tradition, if you understand the whole culture, then you will understand it is not funny. Because in India, even now in villages, you are named according to your birth time. They will see your birth time, and traditionally each one of us belong to one lineage of enlightened master. That is what in India they will say Gotra means which enlightened master's lineage you belong to. Understand? That will be very funny if I explain the whole the social system, only then you will be able to understand it. If you are intellectual energy, you are considered to be the lineage of Brahma. He is the greatest intellectual. He is the person who delivered Vedas. He is the author or is the origin of Vedas. That is why the intelligent crowd, the intellectual crowd is called as Brahmanas in India. They are the intelligent people, means people who preserve the Vedas, descendants of Brahma, creator. If you are more emotional, the devotion oriented, if you are head intellectual oriented, you are considered as a descendant of Brahmana, descendant of Brahmana. If you are emotional oriented, you will be more, belongs to the tradition of devotion, Bhakti, Vishnu. Your Kula Devata will be Venkateshwara or some other Krishna or Rama. The tradition of Bhakti, devotion, Dasa Parampara, the Vishnu. And if you are more being oriented, technique, meditation oriented, you will be the Shaivite. You will belong to the Shiva tradition. Understand? Each family will name the kids only after their family deity. The different names of the family deity only will be used as a name. Still now, in India, 90% of the people carry only some gods' names. 90% of the people carry some god or goddess names only. And we have enough gods. We have more than 33 crore, means 330 million. 330 million, 33 crore devatas. So, just if you use one god's name 3 times, that's enough. Not more than that. You don't need to use more than 3 times. Whole 1 billion people will have names. So, anywhere you go, even now, more than 90% of the people carry some god or goddess names. That is why this technique is so powerful. One important thing, sorry to tell that, this technique will be powerful only if you are named traditionally by a person who knows the astrology, horoscope, that science, and if he is named according to the energy of you and the family's energy. See, in India, the whole country, the whole culture was dedicated for this one science of enlightenment. At least originally it was designed for that. Now there may be some places, some gap, some exemptions, some dropouts, maybe there. But dropouts are dropouts, they are not rule. As a rule, the system or the tradition was dedicated for enlightenment. That is why any tourism center in India will be only centered on temple. Go to any hill, any falls, any river, any beach, anything naturally beautiful or a place to visit, you will see a huge temple. Huge temple. The other day, some of our devotees and I went to the Niagara Falls. When we were taking the photographs, I said, if it was India, we would have seen the temple tower, not casino towers. No, I saw the casino towers in the background. In India, we would have put Nagareshwara. We would have put a Shiva temple. And in South India, there is a big falls, Kutralam. We have a huge temple, Kutraleshwara, Shiva temple. In India means you would have seen only the temple tower, not the casino tower. Somehow the whole culture, the whole tradition was dedicated for the science of enlightenment, was dedicated for the science of spirituality. Any hill, in the Andhra especially, any hill, there won't be a single hill without Vishnu or Devi temple. Either Venkateshwara will be sitting or Devi will be there. Any hill, any natural place, if you see, there will be temple. And every family will have their own deity. Means the energy with which they are regularly working. The standardization has happened. Almost all homes will have puja room, their own small temple in their house. Actually, during our healing initiation, when I started going around the world and I started initiating healers, In the healing initiation, we have a rule, understanding that in your house you should dedicate a small place for meditation. With Indians, we don't have difficulties at all with that rule. But always with the Westerners, they'll ask me, Swamiji, I don't have a place, what to do? Can I have healing initiation? Only then it stuck to me. Only in India, the dedicating a place separately for meditation in every home is a tradition. I can't see, even in modern India, a house without a place for puja. Every day, whether they do elaborate puja or not, they will at least light a lamp and 2-3 sloka. The mother would have taught, hey, this is your family deity. This is the mantra you are supposed to chant. Some 2-3 word they will utter. One important thing, in those days there was no communication, no electronic media, no TV, no radio, but the Veda mantras were chanted with the same accent from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. Still I can't understand how they were able to transmit that sound, the pronunciation method, same, so much of standardization. Sometimes people ask me, Swamiji, especially when they come to India and come back, they ask me, Swamiji, in India everything is so disorganized, nothing is organized, things are running this way and that way, and if you drive in Indian road, you will not have any more death fear. Just a few miles of drive in Indian road, all your death fear will disappear. You will be liberated from fears. Now, especially in villages, if you drive, if you are pregnant, you can expect delivery in the vehicle itself. Now the movements will be such. People ask me, Swamiji, it is so disorganized, why? I can't tell really we are disorganized. We have put all our energy of organizing in different direction. So much of thorough standardizing happened in the spiritual direction. From Kanyakumari to Kashmir, the mantras will be chanted same way, the rituals will be performed in same way, the meditation will be done in the same way, the temple structure will be same. They may have their own creative expressions, but the basic understanding, the philosophy is same. I was really shocked. How could these people do this without any electronic media or mass communication systems? There are no mass communication system and no possibility to travel from city to city, place to place, but they were able to do so much. In every South Indian village, if you see the huge granite temples, if they would have put that energy in building dams and roads and infrastructure, the country would have flourished like anything. Every village will have a temple which is equivalent to airport of this country. One airport of this country will be equivalent to one temple, because so much of energy has been spent there. It will be easily 10-12 acre of granite structure. Granite. And now we have done a small stone structure which is only 100 square feet. For that we spent 6 million rupee. 100 square feet takes 6 million rupee, and 10 acre built up areas without any machineries, just by hand carving they have done. In every village you will see, every village means the whole thing, everything was directed towards enlightenment. Even if somebody dies in the house, the priest will come and chant a Upanishad called Kathopanishad, which is the science of enlightenment. Even that atmosphere, that chance, even that mood, they use it to advise the other people who are remaining. Don't think only he is died, you are also going to die. now itself get ready. Now that is the message. That is the message of that Upanishad. The Upanishad has no word of consoling. Priest won't come and console. He won't praise the person who is dead. In Indian last rite, there is no tradition of praising the person, what all he did and how he lived and all those great words. No. That tradition itself does not exist. All they do, once the person dies, the priest will come, he will chant the Kathopanishad, which is the science of enlightenment, which gives you the method to achieve enlightenment even when you are about to die. So the science will be taught to all the other people. Understand? It is not that only he died, you are also going to die. Learn the science now itself. Every step is used towards enlightenment.